What is up, you guys? Today we're looking at one story from r/malicious compliance and one story from r/Idontworkherelady. Let's get right into it. Do the work exactly how you want it done, even though it's ridiculously wrong? Fine by me. Some background before we start. I worked as a drone pilot, mine surveyor for a man-child, using drones to take pictures of the mines, creating a 3D model out of those pictures, and then calculating all sorts of goodies for the clients, like their gold yield and the amount of shit they have to move, etc. It's really technical and can easily go to complete shit if you don't know what you're doing. And even if you do know what you're doing, it can still very easily go to complete shit. I'm licensed and certified. I've been playing the game for a long time now, and I know how it works most of the time. My ex-boss, on the other hand, he didn't. See, he got a surveyor license during the 80s by complete chance. He was a simple miner who just happened to be in the right place at the right time, getting a free university scholarship to become a surveyor because they had a few grants left over and called out who wanted it. His hand was one of the ones they picked. The second he got his license, he quit his job and convinced an old retiree surveyor to throw in his retirement, all cards on the table, to start up their own surveying business. He spent the entire time at the golf course and the bar, making a fat amount of cash off his newly founded self-milking cash cow. Not once did he carry out an actual survey. Hell, I doubt he even stepped foot in a mine since then. He just invoiced the clients, told the retiree where to go, and collected a paycheck. So time moves on, work slowly filters in, and as one does when they reach the ripe old age of 80-something, the retiree decides screw this and kicks the bucket. My boss's cash cow just died on him, and no matter how hard he squeezed the teats, the only thing coming out of it now was dust. The only other employee was the guy who acted as his assistant, and basically just carried all the heavy shit for him. He didn't have a backup, so of course he hired me. I was pretty fresh into the game at the time, starving and basically homeless. And in my eyes, this guardian angel just descended from the heavens and offered me a way out that doesn't involve an ungodly amount of Xanax and a short rope. He basically told me that we have to survey X site, and to get data to X client. He didn't tell me how, didn't tell me what data exactly he wanted. Hell, he didn't even tell me when they needed it by. He just pointed to the place on Google, told me to go there and get it done. Somehow, I did it. By the skin of my left testy, I scraped by and eventually figured out just what the hell to do. At some point, we were kicked off the mine for reasons that my boss didn't disclose to me, and had to open up our own offices. My boss graciously dug deep into his pockets, kicked out his eldest son, and dedicated that room in his house to our use. Now I was spending every day with the man, since if he wasn't at the golf course, he was at home. We started butting heads, but he had this illusion in his head of how things worked and how you're supposed to do things, and I had practical experience and qualifications to tell me otherwise. Every single day was a fight, and every single day he'd tell me how he wanted it to be done, and I'd just turn around and do it the way it's meant to be done. I started passing out my CV, curriculum vitae, like herpes at a frat party. My timing was perfect though, cause a little blip and crash of the 2020 job economy happened right as I started searching. The interviews I had lined up all got canceled. The people who I'd already interviewed with, and who seemed ecstatic to have me, suddenly didn't answer my calls. I felt like a scorned lover, waiting on the curb in the rain, underwear clinging to my butt cheeks and my socks soaking wet. I was considering maybe going back to IT, or even better, prostitution. I could maybe make $1 each, and thanks to a well-used childhood spent chewing gum, I knew I had the jaw muscles for it. I felt hopeless and dejected, doomed to a life of taking care of a disgusting man-child and his fat wallet. Eventually, though, his second angel descended from the heavens, once again saving me from that seductive little noose. I checked her wings for wires and asked her to do an STD check before we carried on, and she checked out. Finally, I can leave this place. I was waiting on the contract, not willing to commit to anything without it being in writing, when my boss and I get into another massive screaming fight. After hour 3, something inside me snapped. You want it done your way? Fine, I'll do it your way. I committed hard to following his procedure every step of the way. Surveys were taking 3 times longer to do. The drone crashed 4 times, my first ever crash, and all of them were near write-offs. The 3D models stopped looking like mines and started resembling potato chips and Twizzlers. He had clients call him day and night, non-stop, asking him what the hell he was doing. Eventually gave them my number so they can call me directly, and I started getting calls day and night nonstop, until I just turned off my phone outside of working hours. Clients were threatening to drop the contracts. Clients were threatening to sue. My contract came in from my new company, and I signed the dotted line with a smile on my face. One client stopped calling and stopped paying. Word got out, as it always does, that his company is just some redneck hoo-ha being run out of someone's home. Another client canceled the contract completely and threatened legal action. I handed in my resignation. My boss looked at me pleadingly, offering me a crap load of cash to stay. If cocaine can make you feel even half as good as I felt then, sign me up. I told him to get effed. He begged me to write him a manual on how to do the work, to show him how to process the data, to fly the pits, to set up the instruments. I spent the last 2 weeks there writing out every procedure he ever told me I needed to follow, sent it through to him, and walked away. A few weeks later, when he was scheduled to do a survey, I was suddenly spammed with calls and emails and messages from him, asking me how to do this, or how to fly that, or where to find this data. His manual wasn't working, surprise, surprise. I don't know, just read the manual, I said. My new company is currently picking up all the contracts he's dropped. And if we manage to get the last one, I'm gonna ask them for a bonus. This next story comes from r/Idontworkherelady and is titled, Karen slapped me and pushed me because I was ignoring her and not helping. I'm an 18-year-old male, born completely deaf and mute. Also, I'm partially blind in my left eye. I live with my sister, 28-year-old female, who has been taking care of me since our parents died. Recently, she got married and went on her honeymoon, so I'm on my own for a few weeks. This happened yesterday. Usually, whenever I go out, I'm accompanied by my sister due to my disability. But now, since she is on her honeymoon, I had to go out alone. There was a new supermarket open up in our area, and I needed some items, so I decided to go there and grab them. My bad for wearing a red-colored shirt almost similar to the employees working there, but if you look closely, you could see that it was not the uniform. I was at the electronics section looking for some batteries when I see an old man struggling to get some DVDs at the top shelf. Since I'm tall, I helped him. He thanked me, I can do lip reading, and went on his way. When I began looking for the batteries, that's when I felt someone grab my left wrist. I turned around and a woman in her late 40s slapped me. She was speaking something, but I couldn't follow her lips as she spoke too fast. However, I was able to catch some words like you, ignore, job, etc. So I signed to her that I'm deaf. Apparently this was the wrong move because she became even more irate towards the signs. Again, she was yelling something, but I couldn't catch anything. So I took my notebook and started writing that I'm deaf and mute. Before I could finish, she grabbed my notebook and pen and threw them away. Then she slapped me again and pushed me to the ground. Luckily by this time a store employee came to see what the commotion was about. He saw me on the ground and helped me up. And then he asked me what happened. Before I consigned to him, Karen starts to yell at the employee. I don't know what she said as she was not facing me. After she finishes, I signed to the employee that I cannot hear her speak. Fortunately, he understood and explained this to the lady, but she's still not convinced. She tries to assault me again, but I moved away. Then I wrote and showed the employee to call the cops on her. The employee nodded and called the cops. Karen tried to run away, but the security caught her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They first talked to the employee who explained the situation about how Karen assaulted me because she mistook me for a store employee. One police officer comes and speaks to me. I understood that he wanted my version of the events, so I wrote everything down and showed it to the officer. Then they went to check the CCTV footage, then came back and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I gladly said yes. Karen was then placed in handcuffs and given a free ride at the back of a police cruiser. The manager then explained to me that Karen thought I worked there and she became angry that I ignored her. She had been standing on my left side, so I obviously couldn't see her. The store manager then offered me a 50% discount on the products. I texted my sister about the events that happened, and she was livid. Oh, did I mention that my sister is a lawyer? She told me that she herself will be handling the case, and would see to it that Karen would get the maximum time. Court date is in around 40 days. I'll update about it after court. Oh, sweet, sweet justice! Karen's gonna get wrecked, and I love it. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed today's stories, then go ahead and smash that like button. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe for future videos just like this one. And I'll see you guys in the next one.